Thank you for joining us today on this episode of Pakistani's Future. I'm Heidi Crossley, and I will be your host. Today we have some special people joining us tonight. We have Alyssa Reed-Head, who is our expert on U.S. relations. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks. It's good to be here.
We have Colton Johnson, who is our expert on Pakistan-India relations. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
And we also have Mandy Brown, who is our expert along with Colton, with Pakistan-India relations, but specifically on our state collapse expert. Thanks, Mandy. Thanks. So, Alyssa, we're going to start with you. With the upcoming elections in Pakistan, tell us just a little bit about that and what's going on.
So our biggest thing about the upcoming elections is looking at the past elections in 2013 when we look at Imran Khan. He was a very big, popular icon, and he was very liked by the people. And he was not successful in the 2013 elections, but if he did run again, there is a big chance that he might win this upcoming elections just because of his popularity. And if he did, he's very against U.S. relations in Pakistan, very against it, and it says it in his campaigns that he will try to get the U.S. out of Pakistan and without funding. And so we see that if he was put back into office, that the U.S. would probably withdraw from funding Pakistan.
Okay, with the U.S. withdrawing from Pakistan, like if that were to happen, how do you perceive then the country would be without this support?
It would definitely hurt the country a lot because we are giving a lot of money to Pakistan in funding them, and their military has been a lot better with us in it. But without us in it, they won't completely devastate from it, but it will definitely make it a lot harder for them with us withdrawing.
Well, definitely, because we're giving them millions and millions of dollars each year, even. Is that correct? Yeah. Mandy, just a question for you. What proof do we have? Because one of the tensions we notice with Pakistan and them being potentially collapsing is the fact that they could go to war with India. What proof do we have that could happen?
So the main source of conflict between Pakistan and India is Kashmir. So these two nations have been fighting about Kashmir since the founding of Pakistan. They've had 3 wars so far, one in 1947, then 1965, and then not long ago in 1999. The main cause of the wars are violations by both sides on the ceasefire agreement that they have, and what keeps them from fighting is continual peace talks between the nations. But just recently, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called off peace talks with Pakistan, and since that time we've seen an increase of ceasefire violations. So one can only assume that soon these countries will go to war again over Kashmir.
Oh, wow. So, Colton, going to you, how likely do you think a war conflict between Pakistan and India actually is?
I would say it's fairly likely. It's more of a question of when and not if. Like Mandy said, I think that if there was to be a conflict, it would happen in Kashmir. And actually, if I could read a quote from a report that came out about India, they said, on New Year's Day of 2014, India's first Mountain Strike Corps was launched, designed for mountain warfare along the border with China. So they have 13 full-fledged corps in India, and 3 of them are designed to fight in Kashmir if a conflict erupts with Pakistan.
Wow. So do you think that if India and Pakistan were to get into war, do you think China would get involved as well?
I think based off of precedent, I'd say that that's probably a likely possibility. In 1965, when India attacked Pakistan, China supported Pakistan both diplomatically, and they also supplied weapons. And they did the same thing in later conflicts as well. Their prime ministers visit each other's countries, and they've even done some joint military exercises together, which China's never done with any other military in the world. So they have a fairly strong relationship, and I feel like China would probably be likely to come to their aid.
Wow, I didn't realize that Pakistan and China were already so close together with their military pact. So do you think that with China coming into Pakistan, how would this look like for Pakistan as a country?
Well, I think that based off past precedent, so China doesn't like to necessarily get involved, but they like to fund Pakistan. They'll give them weapons, they'll give them funds, but they don't actually have any desire to get into a hand-to-hand combat with India. So they would probably use Pakistan as kind of like a buffer state. And So Pakistan would probably take the brunt of it, and so it would probably hurt their state more than China.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thanks for sticking with us this far. We're going to have a 3-second break, and we'll be back with our program after that. Welcome back to this episode of Pakistan's Future. I'm Heidi Crossley, and I'm your host for the rest of the program. We're going to be talking about in this last section about Pakistan's state collapse and the possibility of that. Mandy, you being the expert on this, what actually causes a nation to fail?
So the strength of a nation is based on a social contract between a nation's government and people. This agreement is usually in the form of what we know as a constitution. What causes a nation to fail is when this contract or agreement is violated. This mainly happens when a government is no longer able to provide or protect the people. So a war between Pakistan and India has the potential to create a situation where the government of Pakistan is unable to keep their side of the agreement. And this can happen because of lack in resources or protection for the people. And so the people will refuse to trust the government and instead rely on themselves. And this, of course, results in the breakdown of the stability of the nation.
Thank you so much. I think we had just a great discussion today. But just to close things off, understanding Pakistan, I mean, we're not there right now, but it does affect the world, and it's affecting us today. Why do you think it's important for us to know this information?
That's an excellent question. So I think that Pakistan is likely in the future to see a decline, and that if any of these situations were to unfold, it would be a very fragile situation for Pakistan. They need backing from both China and the U.S. in order to avoid collapse in the future.
Yeah. So maintaining that relationship is what you're advocating.
Yeah, they definitely need to maintain their strong allies for sure.
And we also need to learn, like, as our own country, as the U.S., to know, like, what can we do to help our country to stay, and, like, what can we learn from Pakistan to, like, we need to be better in, like, maybe we need to be better in our elections, or we need to be more involved in voting, or different things, so we can be more involved and know what can we do and what can we not do to help our country to succeed and not fall as if Pakistan would.
Yeah, because history has shown that when governments and countries are like this, they're often to go back to the tribal forms, which Pakistan, we already have the federally administered tribals areas, and that has been on edge as whether they will join the Khyber Province or if they will stay as separate individual nations or tribes. And so it's interesting to think about, and I think back in U.S. history too, we even had the chance back in the Civil War times of possibly dividing off and becoming our own separate nations. So I think there's a lot of value in that, is recognizing what patterns do we see in history and how can we prevent that within our own country.
I think it's a good idea to keep an eye on Pakistan because they have nuclear weapons, and of course, if a nation is going to fall apart and they have those weapons, who knows what's going to happen to them.
Yeah. So being safe and secure. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of Pakistan's Future.